Thank y'all so much for joining us on another episode of the Black Inspiration Podcast. One of the podcasts that are here to inspire Black people one episode at a time? Question mark. I am your host, the infamous hood rat with the heart of gold himself, Cortez Washington, your friendly neighborhood shiesty man, your third favorite Washington behind Denzel and Carrie. It's not in ranking order with them, but definitely I got to step my game up to get up to their level, just like that. And on today's episode, we are going to be talking to Ebonie Butler, aka Metal and Coffee. I am so happy to be chatting with her today. And of course, I want to give her a proper introduction. So let's get that going. So Ebonie Butler, aka Metal and Coffee, is a metal connoisseur, multifaceted creator who is all about covering the wide variety of metal music. She is also a DJ, full-time software developer, and a part of The Claw, which is a group of diverse tech streamers from across the world, streaming all aspects of science, tech, software, and game development, covering front-end web development, APIs, web systems to data science, game development, and mobile apps. Please show some love for Ebonie.
That was a lot. I'm like, I'm not really sure if I do all that.
Yeah. No, it's just that's just the Claw. But we're talking about you. Thank you so much for coming. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here. Glad to chat with you and hang out.
Oh, yeah. So we're going to be tapping into a bunch of stuff, tapping into your story, your origin stories, how you got started, and just just want to hear about your day-to-day and all these other aspects. But first, you do proclaim yourself as an avid gamer, and I'm not going to do that thing where tell me your 5 favorite characters. No, I just want to know, what games are you playing right now that are occupying your time?
Well, I'm big into Final Fantasy 14, so I am I'm on Endwalker right now. There's the last expansion pack is Dawn Trail, so I'm slowly getting there. That's a forever game, as I'm sure you know. And I just finished Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So I have to do, no, Remake is the first one. Rebirth is the next one. So I'm working on Rebirth right now. And then as a comfort game where I need to de-stress and not think about things too much, I play Chef Life. It's like a restaurant simulator.
Okay.
I run my own restaurant. It's fun.
Yeah, nice. That's super cool. I've seen clips of Final Fantasy 14, but I just never could get what draws you in. So can you tell me what draws people into Final Fantasy 14?
Oh gosh. It's definitely a big, I don't know. I feel like I'm not a serious fan. I feel like someone's a serious Final Fantasy 14 or MMO fan is going to be oh, she doesn't know what he's talking about. But it's the whole concept of teamwork, and this is my first MMO, so I'm barely scratching the surface. But I love how it's like WoW. You have different jobs and races and stuff like that, and you are put into teams for different dungeons and raids outside of the regular questing and storyline. But I play for mostly the raids and dungeons because I like collaborating and having fun with other players. And so you have most of the time you have your 1 tank and then your 2 DPS, damage per second, characters, and then your healer. And so it's just a lot of the teamwork that goes into beating these bosses that I really, really enjoy.
Nice. Yeah, so it's it's just a big community. So it's this.
Yeah. It's what are other MMOs not Elden Ring, what's the other? Skyrim, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Elder Scrolls Online, all that fun stuff. It's just that whole concept of always having something to do in games and literally never getting bored.
That's cool. That's super cool. I love that. I've been always trying to find my forever game, but my ADHD says no. We don't have a forever game. We gotta jump onto something else.
Right. No, I understand. Totally understand.
Yeah. So let's just dive right into it. Let's get to the nitty gritty. What is I want to get your origin story. So how did you get started into? First, I would just really want to know how you get started into software development and being a software engineer, because that is something that I always want to tell everybody they can get into if they have like the inquisitive mind or like that problem solving aspect and love tech. Like I love getting people to like try it out a little bit, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, just like your origin story about that, and then we'll definitely tap into the metal thing as well. I mean, metal music as well, not metal thing. Sorry, I don't want to insult.
No, no, you're fine. So yeah, I actually started my first dev job. I didn't get my first dev job until I was 30 years old.
Hmm.
Because in college, I originally was majoring in computer science because I grew up in a very techie family. My dad has a master's in computer science, and
Oh.
not that I was programming when I was younger,
Hmm.
but it was kind of we had our own computers because at one point we had our own computers because we kept messing up my dad's, and so it became a thing where we started messing up our own big, you know, Dell computers and we had to fix it ourselves. So that's when I got introduced to the whole, you have to wipe your computer out, clear it out, and then reinstall the OS. And so, like, simple stuff, not simple, I won't say it's simple, but basic maintenance stuff like that. I was introduced to that early because I was messing up my own computer and I had to fix it or no one else was going to fix it. And so I've always had been interested in tech, but I was definitely discouraged a lot in college when I started majoring in computer science because I just felt that I wasn't smart enough and I was like the only black woman in the classes. There's like one other black guy I remember that I was friends with, but we were like the only two black people in the major. And, I just felt like I wasn't, I was just so used to that point at being good at stuff. And so it just felt weird to like not having things sink in instantly
Hmm.
as I'm used to. And I thought I wasn't smart enough. And then I had like a situation where I, and this is kind of hard for me to reach out for help, but I reached out for help to a teaching assistant.
Hmm.
And he was definitely not in my corner, like he was a very frustrating towards me. And he was like, maybe this is just not for you. This major is not for you.
Mm.
And so I changed majors because I didn't want to deal with that anymore. I
Hmm.
changed to information technology, which is, I feel like it's the lightweight version of computer science. It's like you kind of touch everything but the deep dive into code. But there's a place for IT for sure, but it was
Hmm.
definitely easy for me.
Yeah.
And so after that, I started working for in defense contracting. I kind of got hired out of college and went that route because my dad was kind of not forcing, but encouraging me to be like, "Oh yeah, this company has job security," which is not really a thing anymore these
Hmm.
days. And
Yeah.
so I worked with the in defense contracting for 6 years, and I was like, you know what, I'm ready to revisit programming. Like I don't believe what that dude said. That dude said years ago about this not being for me, and so
Hmm.
and I just went on a big journey of like teaching myself how to code. I started making websites, which is something I had experience with before, but I started getting serious about it. And so around 29 to 30, I think it took me like a year and a half. I was like driving back and forth to work. Round trip like was 2 hours. So, and then I would get up at 5, study a little bit, drive to work, come back at like 6 p.m., study 2 more hours, and then repeat. Like, so I just had like no social life, and I was just teaching myself how to code.
Okay.
But of course, that eventually paid off, and I started going to like community classes around Philadelphia because I'm from Philadelphia,
Hmm.
and there was a lot of opportunities to network and get to know people, and I ended up meeting my first boss in a software engineering job at one of her classes, and so I got a job offer. It was a pay cut for sure, but I had planned to take this pay cut and be like, I'm going to be happier. So I took like
Yeah.
a $20,000 pay cut, and I was like, all right, this is going to be a new career change for me, and of course it was for me because as soon as I started the job, I just knew I was where I was supposed to be and I was having fun
Hmm.
and it was challenging. I really enjoy making websites. I started out being a front end developer, specifically in like WordPress. WordPress is a very popular content management system. And so I started learning how to build themes for various clients with the agency I was working for, and then I moved into more of a full stack position, working on the server side and building plugins, WordPress plugins, and kind of learning that side of the fence. And yeah, and that was in 2017 where I first got my break into tech. And now we're in 2024, and I'm a lead software engineer, moving in a more so team management position.
Hmm.
I'm not sure when that's going to happen. Probably that's like my 2025 goal. I think I want to end up managing like a small tech team or something,
Nice.
and all that. So yeah, that's my TLDR of my software engineering journey.
Wow, that's an amazing journey, and I really love hearing how you like circle back around and be like, you know what, fuck that guy, I'm gonna give this a try. Because at a time when you were at your most like not necessarily most impressionable, but like at the time when you were your most hungriest and you had the most amount of free time to delve deeper into this, that person
Yeah,
who was supposed to be there as the mentor or like a guide or like even just saying something positive shit just was like,
yeah,
nah, get out, and who who knows what was on his brain. He could be off his own shit, or even like just like the
yeah,
the race thing, or the gender thing too could have been a huge factor. But I'm so happy to hear
yeah.
that you circle back around and all that stuff. uh
Yeah, it was probably both. It was probably like because he's a white guy,
mhm,
so and it's definitely like I kind of play it off now since I'm older, and
mhm.
the experience has passed. But I was like I walked out of there like bawling my eyes out, and I called my mom, and she called the school,
Oh damn.
and he's like got him in trouble. But really, what really I'm not really even sure if he really got in trouble. But I remember
Yeah.
like seeing him come out of the office of the computer science or the director of the computer science, whatever. And,
Mhm.
he didn't look me in the eye. And I'm like, yeah, don't look at me.
Yeah. Nice. So around that time when you were going through your pretty, I want to say like not necessarily like non-conventional journey, but like definitely like a like I guess a more realistic approach to being like a software dev and doing like and going through that process. You also were delving deeper into your love for metal music and in the metal scene. So
Yeah.
when did that like start to come into play, and like what was your first taste of metal that really got you to be like, "Ooh, yeah, this is my shit."
Well, I'm a millennial. I grew up in the new metal era,
Mm,
and I feel like I've always been into rock music, whether it be like pop rock or pop punk. Growing up on the radio was mostly stuff like Green Day, Eve Six, and then Linkin Park,
mm,
POD, Corn. So I grew up in that TRL era for sure, and so
mm,
I've always graduated, grad, uh, just kind of gravitated
mm,
towards that kind of music. I've always been into rock. Always been like the odd person in my family. But the cool thing about my family, for sure, they never made me feel weird about it. I was just
yeah.
always that, oh, Ebony is that rock person. If you, that's coming out of her room. That's her thing. And of course, eventually, I converted them, to my side of the fence, and
Yeah.
not like necessarily my side of the fence, but they expanded their horizons due to me. So.
Yeah. Did you do the argument like if you notice the bass lines in a lot of songs it's very similar to the rap. If you hear it and if you go
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of crossover. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's not that different, just embrace it.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I remember one time I had like my older brothers, well, my older brother and my older sister, like they were like listening to this band called Fuel that they're not popular anymore, but they were like really popular back in like 2000s. And I just heard the song coming out of their room, and I'm just like nodding my head, like, yeah, I got you. And so yeah, I was always been into like uh guitar centered music.
Mm.
I would say I grew up kind of sheltered, somewhat sheltered, but because I didn't have that I guess awareness that there was more music out there outside of what I was hearing on the radio, which
Uh-huh.
is like constant top 40, which I was glad top 40 was pretty diverse. And I got that, interest in heavy music,
Hmm.
but it really didn't kick into overdrive until I got to college. I've always had it in my brain that I had a strong connection with music since
Hmm.
and I'm not really sure what that means, but I just knew I wanted to do something more with music from the start. And so when I got to college, I went to Drexel University in Philadelphia, and they have a really good college radio station called
Hmm.
WKDU. And so as soon as I heard about that, I instantly was like, all right, I want to become a radio DJ and I want to have my own show. And the cool thing about that kind of radio station is that it's a non commercial radio station. So all the bands that I had been listening to up to that point, I could not play them on that radio because they were too popular. They were mainstream. And so that forced me to dive into the underground music
Hmm.
scene and kind of find what I liked. And, I found that I still gravitated towards heavy music. And so that's when I got really into, I think Opeth is a progressive metal band, and they were earlier like a death band, but they are one of the bands that I started listening to and kind of realizing like, oh, I like these growls. These are kind of nice.
Hmm.
And so that kind of opened my world up to the big world of metal because growing up, I had a perception, like many people do have a perception that metal music is just constantly aggressive, yelling,
Hmm.
not understanding what they're saying. And sometimes it is that, but there's also different flavors of metal that is very slow and intentional and blues driven and clean singing, and that are just it's just a varying art form. It can come in different flavors, and that's why whenever
Yeah.
I'm like, I hear somebody that's like, "Oh, I don't like metal," I'm like, "You just haven't found the kind of metal that you like."
Hmm. Yeah.
There's like 50 subgenres of metal music, so
Yeah.
there's even jazz metal. There's something out for you.
Jazz metal. I've never heard it. I need to check that out. Jazz metal. Oh yeah. Adding that to the list tonight. I might go to sleep to that tonight.
Right, yes.
Yeah. So like that, it's always wonderful to hear people diving deeper into like a genre of music because like for
Mhm.
one I love house music, and so
Yeah.
like I always thought like house was just like what they show, how they show it on TV kind of, but then like diving deeper and deeper and deeper into it and learning that like house and like techno had like origins in like the black community, and I was like, oh
Yeah.
hell yeah, I'm deep, I'm getting more into this, and so that's pretty cool. and
Yeah.
also and also like you like I know like on your YouTube page too, you like really like lay out your journey of like some of the experiences you had too, which is pretty dope. If you're listening right now or watching, go check out our YouTube page. She got some dope ass videos on there. Definitely go look at it. But just like that, like the one thing I wanted to touch on was like this transition from like being that in person like radio personality to like transition into the digital space. Like how was that for you going from that? Because like us, we grew up like even though you had computers in the house, like tech was like a luxury still kind of, and then now
Yes.
to be in this space now where it's like intertwined in our daily lives is something that is like still pretty like astonishing when you think about it. So like how was that like
Yeah.
transitioning from like the personality to like the digital creator that you are?
Um, I kind of feel like I was got stagnant a little bit about at the radio station. I
Mm-hmm.
was still enjoying it, and it was definitely like a cool ritual because I had a Sunday. I think yeah, I had mostly a Sunday show, and it was called well, it wasn't called Metal and Coffee until it was like 2011. I think it was called The Bittersweet Agony, but so I was listening to very like painful music, and I still do, whatever.
Yeah.
But I didn't transition into the Metal and Coffee brand until like early 2010s,
Mm-hmm.
and my show was on Sundays, and so I had a ritual of getting up every morning, making my coffee, driving to the radio station, and just playing tunes and hanging out with myself and taking in calls here and there, and sometimes I get some weird calls, and I was kind of getting a little burnt out with that.
Yeah.
Just being like, and that's just a thing with being a woman in space primarily dominated by men, because
Yeah.
sometimes you get like weird men who just hone in on you and just want to
Yeah.
talk to you all the time. But I felt like I didn't know where I wanted to go, and I knew that I wanted to do more than just a radio
Mm-hmm.
show. And so after that, I decided to build my own website for Metal and Coffee. I wanted to be like this blogger, metal reviewer,
Mm-hmm.
and mostly just in written form. So I did that for like 3 or 4 years, writing a bunch of blog posts on metalandcoffee.com.
Mm-hmm.
And then started getting some eyes on my content, and then I started collaborating with other publications, and I started writing for Ghost Cult magazine, which is another publication that's doing really well and kills
Mm-hmm.
it in the scene. And then got kind of wind of an opportunity of doing like a not an online radio station gig,
Mm-hmm.
not a place where, I mean, not a place, but instead of going to an actual radio station, it's like strictly online. So I would
Okay.
record my episodes and then send them in, and they'd stream it on their platform. It's called Gimme Radio. They're still around, but I don't think they have the radio portion anymore. But so
Mm.
I was a release DJ, a new releases DJ on there for a little bit, and that was more high profile because I had to put in the work to find new music, constantly find new music. And I got really good at doing that and putting together playlists and putting together my voiceovers and snippets and all that
Mm-hmm.
and sending them in to be produced and all that. And so did that for a while. Got to a point there where I just didn't want to do it anymore because it was unpaid too. It was like exposure. I was getting exposure, but I just felt like I needed to elevate myself
Yeah.
a little bit, and so that's when I kind of started changing all my usernames to Metal and Coffee because on Instagram I that was like a personal Instagram that I had, and then I was like, you know what? I want to do Metal and Coffee stuff. I want to be a voice in the heavy scene and start sharing my records and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started getting like serious about that in was it around COVID time? Like many people
Yeah.
around COVID time, you start. I think a lot of us started thinking about things that we always wanted to do and just like started doing it.
Yeah.
And so I've been a little self conscious about posting myself online because, it's very white male space. Like I get told that I don't know what I'm talking about daily, and so I wasn't really sure if I was ready to
Like
embark.
you a decade and
Exactly.
some change. You a decade and some change in, and still they still are like saying like more than almost 20 decades, like almost 2 decades in, and
Yeah,
they're still like, you don't know what you're talking about. Get the fuck out of here.
right. Yeah. I'm just like, and in my head, I'm just like, you know what? I'm not going to tell them I've been in this industry for like over almost 20 years. So I don't
Yeah.
think I need to prove my point. They can just go. Um, but yeah, so just like, I think that's a fear that a lot of people have with starting out with putting yourself online via TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And no, it's a valid fear because you're kind of once your video is online, that's where all the critics want to come out and like pick it
Yeah.
apart. But I got over that fear and was like, all right, let's just start putting in recaps of my favorite metal releases every month. And then I started doing other TikTok trends that I'd see from a metal perspective. And I was just kind of like feeling my way through the scene because at first I was just posting photos of my vinyl records and me showcasing them. And then I
Mm-hmm.
got into more video type stuff. And it was it was like a discovery period for like a year until I figured out, okay, I kind of like doing metal reviews, and so I'm going to focus on that and focus less on following or trying to hop on various trends that it's just not for my personality because that's another thing that I kind of got caught up on.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of popular people tend to be very quirky and they tend to do these like I don't know, this very entertaining and do these trends that are currently popular and then they get all these views and I got into like a thinking space of like comparing myself to them and then I
Yeah.
just realized that no, just be yourself and if I want to be like a legit like textbook informative talk to the camera type person and because I like and enjoy that
Mm-hmm.
then just be that person and so I got into just being that super not like super formal, but like I'm more formal than most people who even do similar things to what I do. A lot of the things that I see are just not similar to what I do because they're more entertaining, but entertaining is subjective to people. But
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
so I'm just very I like to present. I like to state the facts and state my opinions and then have a dancey video of me jamming out to a metal song. So
Nice.
that's my formula and I've been enjoying it.
Yeah. And you've definitely built a following. You got like 100K followers on Instagram. So congratulations on that. And just
Yep.
like, and just also just like, people just really tune into your content because it's really substantial and it's like authentic. Like you said, like carving out that path that you have is something that does give you longevity. Um,
Yeah.
and speaking of like just like some of the weirdos you face in the
Mhm.
scene, like in what ways have you seen like the metal scene and the tech industry like intersect with like its culture and its expectations or even expectations on you when it comes to being in those spaces?
Um, I guess the first thing that comes to mind is just being second guessed constantly.
Mm.
I can definitely pull from one experience from tech and one experience from being in the metal scene where they found out my name's Ebony, and Ebony makes obvious that I'm a Black woman. So
Yeah.
they are less willing to talk to me, and they speak to me like I don't know what I'm talking about. And I remember having like an email exchange from my tech experience, but having an email exchange where they just like I explained something in very clear details, making it clear that I was like the lead engineer, and they still like told me that, oh, you're wrong, and repeat exactly what I said. So you didn't, and it was just a case of they didn't even bother to read what I said. They just assumed I was wrong and then repeated everything I said. So yeah, so that's just a case where they just assume that I don't know what I'm talking about. And then on the metal scene side, and it doesn't happen often, but I get, questionable stares like, what are you doing here?
Mm.
And then I'll be questioned about if I'm wearing a metal band shirt, like, do you know what shirt you're wearing? Like, and I'm like, yeah, I dressed myself this morning. I
Yeah.
think so. And yeah, just like questionable experiences like that. In terms of like aggressive like racism, I haven't experienced anything where they said it to my face, but there were a couple instances where friends of mine who are white, and they would tell me like, "Oh, this guy came up to me and said this about you, and I kicked his ass." And I'm like, "Good."
Yeah. Yeah, I love hearing that.
That's the funny thing. Like, they will never come up to you in person and say any of that racist shit to you. Yeah, if they were, then they would get a mouthful from me. And yeah, I don't take that lying down. But they're always too scared to come up to you in person. They want to say all that online behind a computer.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of swole too. I wouldn't want to say nothing to your face either, man.
Right. I
Yeah.
lift weights. I punch.
Yeah, you like even if your punch ain't strong, you can still like just toss me over your shoulder, pick me up, and just throw me over. so,
Right. Yeah.
so when you were like starting out, or just like even on your journey now, like who are some of the people that like you look to as like influences, both in like just like being like black media personality, but also being a software dev too.
Um, Gosh, I feel like I don't have anybody specific in mind.
Hmm.
I kind of felt like I just listened to a lot of, and I can't name any off the top of my head at this point because I haven't listened to in a while, but I remember listening to a lot of inspirational podcasts about just being an outsider in the industry and often surrounding myself with people who are with friends who are also software engineers and also Black women. Because whenever I meet another Black woman who's also a software engineer, I always
Mm-hmm.
like fangirl. And so I have a lot of friends that I admire for being a part of my support system. Not necessarily, they're not necessarily content creators
Mm-hmm.
themselves, but they're just people that helped build the support network around myself that kept me going towards the big career change and continues to keep me going in
Mm-hmm.
the this career that is constantly test you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any like specific Black creators that have inspired me. I follow a ton of like beauty creators, Black women who just kill it, and I feel like I'm not sure if I know a lot that are have music review content similar to myself. I feel like it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to find that, but I do follow a lot of general Black creators in the beauty space, in the commentary space, like Jackie Aina, and also streamers like Kiwi on the Sticks. I like watching her streaming content, gaming content, and so I just kind of like have this like general love for when I see other Black women creators and all the also Black creators as well. And yeah, I get inspired by all of them. I don't have anyone specific in mind.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always good to like, and when you in those space, it's always so funny when you in those spaces and it's just all white people and you see somebody black, you be like, "Hey, what's happening? Let me talk to you. Let me talk to you real quick. What's going on?" And then
Right.
you're like,
Yeah.
and then the back of your head is like, "I hope they ain't weird. Oh my god, I hope they're not
I
weird."
know. Yeah. No, that's me. Like I was at a tech conference last week
Mm.
and definitely a sea of white people, but I've gone to it so much where like I know all the specific Black people that are there.
Yeah,
And whenever we see each other, like, "Yay, what's up? Let's come on, hang out with us."
yeah.
And then I, and then one of the other attendees always makes it a point to grab other Black people that he doesn't know and brings them over.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, I love this.
You sitting at the table with the folks and they like, look at that poor lost soul. Let's get that boy over
Right?
here.
Yeah,
Let's get that boy over here. Come on, bro. Where you going? Don't go sit with them. You know you don't know them. Come here.
exactly. It's the best, and we all just be able to we're all able to talk unfiltered about our experiences,
Mm,
and just support each other. And yeah, I mean, it's all about that big support system. It's like I remember going through those conferences and not knowing anyone and feeling like I it was extra hard for me because I was one of the few and
yeah.
dealing sure they could be nice, a lot of them are nice. I have nothing negative to say, but it's just about being different and
Mm,
you know also being made to feel different by some people who just are just looking at you like you're not supposed to be there. And so when you
mm,
have even in a sea of white people, even if you have a core five group that you can always go to for support, even if you have to network, and not that you shouldn't network, even, but if you have like trouble networking,
mhm.
it's nice to have that core group that will uplift you and basically hit the reset button for you and be like, all right, I'm gonna get back out there and I'll be back.
Yeah, yeah. That's super dope. So as somebody that's working in those spaces where like you're like one of few black people, and then also somebody that's just like honestly, I hate to say it, chronically online like the rest of us, um, how do you refill your cup? How do you refill back into yourself and give yourself that like basically that like not necessarily reassurance, but just like grounding yourself and being in the present and being okay.
um, well, I recently got to a point I don't read comments anymore. Well, my rule is I only read the first hour of comments when a video goes live, and then I just don't read it anymore because it doesn't really serve me to come across negativity. And I really try my best, even though it's hard. I try my best to have a shutdown time always every night to not
Mm-hmm.
be on my phone. I deal with doom scrolling like everybody else, and it's hard to kick that. But I've been actively making sure that I spend time reading instead of doom scrolling. Even video games. Video games are valid. So like I'll be
Mm-hmm.
like, no, don't doom scroll. finish this RPG you've been working on.
Yeah.
Because it can be easy to get sucked in with doom scrolling and with being chronically online in general and feeling like you have to see everything to make sure you're not missing out on anything. But you're when you do that, you're taking away from being in the present, and that's more important than fear of missing out. And so
Yeah.
I really make it a point to do that. I go to the gym every other day. That's one thing I recently got back into after kind of realizing I kind of stopped doing that healthy habits from being chronically online too much.
Hmm.
And so I actively am patient with myself in the mornings. I have like a self-care checklist in the morning to make sure I do all these things
Mm.
before I'm able to log on to something. Like
Mm.
don't look at Instagram or whatever first thing in the morning. That's not cool.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm still a work in progress, and that's why I have a lot of lists of things that as I mentioned, but it's working. I have like a lot of mental stability, a lot more than I used to a couple months ago, and I'm learning that sure I'm a content creator, but I'm still a person, and that's not my life, and I don't want to be chronically online. Even though I'm a content creator, I don't want to be chronically online. I just want to post my video and like leave.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's the hardest thing is just posting your stuff and then be like, all right, I'll see you later. And then just see what's
Right.
going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, and that's
Mhm.
why I give myself like the first hour to be like, okay, let me make sure the video is going in a decent direction,
Mhm.
because I don't want to have posted something backwards and then, t- sorry, my pets are going crazy.
It's all
I
right.
don't want to, I don't want to have posted something backwards or like strongly incorrect and
Mm.
then not know about it until 24 hours later. Because that's the other thing with a downside of like, I guess I wouldn't call it a downside, but I'm one person. I film my video. I write my scripts, film my videos, edit my videos. No one else does it but me, and so it can be very hard to catch things that are mispronounced correctly, that I might have missed vetting, and I said something incorrect. And that's another reason why I only post a video once a week because I just can't
Yeah.
I can't put that pressure on myself to be like, oh, the more you post, the more. I'm like, no, I'm going the slow and steady route, and it's yielding good results so far.
Hmm.
And so because I do that all on my own, and I don't have editors or all that, it just can be really hard to catch those things. And so allow myself to like, all right, let me see how the video is doing for the first hour, and then I log off. But the ultimate goal is to be like post and no more social.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to I'm so happy to hear you say you give yourself grace because a lot of people don't do that. And it is draining, being a especially you doing everything by yourself too. And then like being then being harder on yourself, like you got to do better next time, you got to do this, you got to do that. It's like it's
Yeah.
hard not to get that in the back of your head, but like honestly giving yourself that grace and being like, all right, if it's an edit I need to make, I'm gonna make the edit or I'm gonna do whatever. But yeah, it's so
Yeah.
wonderful to hear like you letting yourself be human, which is a weird thing to say, but you letting yourself be
Right.
human.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm definitely a perfectionist, and I'm a recovering perfectionist. So,
Mhm.
in the beginning, I'd have this thing. I would take down a video if I mispronounced something, and
Oh wow.
yeah, I would just delete it.
Yeah.
And I've learned over the past year or so of doing this that, you know, just keep those mistakes up because that makes you more human, and you're just a regular person. You're not perfect, so just keep the video up. You worked hard on it. You mispronounce something. Sure, if the video goes viral, for example, my African metal video, that went viral, and every comment is like, "You're mispronouncing the country name," and
Mhm.
I accepted it. I really did try it, but I remember it's funny because like I put a lot of work into my videos, and I legit will sit down and type, how do you pronounce this?
Mhm.
And I hear it, and then I think I'm pronouncing it right, and then because I'm doing so many things at once, I'll temporarily revert back to pronouncing something wrong and not notice it, and like those little things just kind of happen. And so I didn't delete the video, it's still up, but yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I'm gonna be honest. If I deleted everything I made a mistake in, I would have no content online.
Same,
Yeah.
same typos, just like I'm
Yeah.
like, darn it.
Oh yeah. So before we get to the words of affirmation and like words of advice you have, I really want to get like what are like three albums you would recommend somebody to check out
Oh,
to get their first taste, like get their feet wet, you know.
their feet wet in the metal realm.
Mhm.
Um, well, if you're kind of into something that's a little more bluesy and psychedelic, and if you're like really into some groove and you don't mind a little sandy raw production, might want to check out the band Windhand. I'm blanking on the name of the record. I think it has the track Two Urns on it. I'm not good at with album names, I'll tell you that.
Okay,
I'll always
that's
give
all
you three
right.
bands. But yeah, so one band is Windhand. Technically they're like doom metal, stoner metal, and the characteristics of those two kinds of metal is that it's slow, very intentionally fuzzy, and it's it can be repetitive sometimes. It's all about invoking this really gloomy, thick atmosphere. And so,
Mm.
Windhand is the first recommendation. If you want to really dive into the kind of like the, I'll say sexy metal. And people probably have heard of this band before. Sexy metal, alternative metal, Sleep Token. They're really popular, and people will claim that they're not metal, but they are probably the best example of a gateway drug into metal. If you like a lot of the harder songs on their records, for instance, their latest record, I think, actually their second last record, um, "Take Me Back to Eden" is a really great example of what kind of metal you might like. And it's almost like in the metalcore realm,
Hmm.
but it is still very groovy and moody and just very can be very cinematic at times. So Sleep Token is a great gateway to more metal that you might like. And then the last one, gosh, the last recommendation, I want something super fast. Cannibal Corpse. And this is like the typical crazy, weird metal band name, but that's when you dive into metal, you'll end up realizing that a lot of it isn't about shock value. And Cannibal Corpse is in the death metal realm. It's all about Cookie Monster vocals and as much fast strumming and blast beats. And if you don't know what blast beats are, it's just when you it's a drums thing and it's constant bass like back to back like that's blast beats, my version of it. And so if you want to dive into like a legit like okay this is metal, this is might be the metal that people talk about that they might not be into, check out Cannibal Corpse because it's really great stuff.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Yeah, these are bands that I'm definitely probably gonna check out too myself. But you know, it was secretly for list for me. But I appreciate you giving everybody else some some
I'm giving you a
recommendations.
playlist.
Yeah. All right. So we're getting close to the tail end of the episode. So this is the time for words of affirmation or words of advice. You know, it's just some mantras you like to repeat to yourself or things that
Mhm.
you feel like folks need to hear and need to invoke in their daily lives. So um, floor
Okay.
is yours.
Um, this is kind of thing where I say you are valid or I am or not really sure.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. Yeah, 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 yeah.
um, well, if you are ever like hesitating about wondering if you should post that thing online, if you're interested in like creating anything yourself, whether it be music related, tech related, whatever your interests are, if you're interested in sharing that love for it, know that you are an expert for somebody. Your voice is valid because people always want to learn from different people. Don't like pollute your mind with the fact that, oh, so and so is already doing what I want to do. Doesn't matter if they're doing what you want to do. You're gonna make it different because you are different from that person. And so, if you ever want to start creating, know that your voice is important. Know that it takes time and practice, and be confident in yourself always. And no one's perfect. If a video does not come out the way that you want it, still post it. That's you growing. So yeah, you can do it.
Awesome. Yes. Ebony, thank you so much for being on the show. Really
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on, talking about your wonderful story, and just like, just all the dope shit you're always doing. That's amazing. Um,
Thank you for having me.
yeah, of course, of course, of course. Last thing, where can the listeners find you? Where can the people watching find you on the socials, and what can they expect when they tune into your content?
Um, well, I am a software engineer, but I don't really post about that stuff anymore. Happy to talk about it if you are looking to break into it. Also happy to talk about gaming. But when you look me up on Instagram or on TikTok, on Twitter, my handle is Metal and Coffee, and I mostly talk about music, metal music. I talk about specific bands. I do recaps of new stuff that came out for the month. I share hot takes. If I don't like something that everybody else likes, I'll share it and then get all the backlash. Um, but always happy to talk with, especially with other people of color, that are into non-stereotypical things, and always happy to support people. So just reach out. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. If you go to metalandcoffee.com, literally all my socials are on there. So there you go.
Nice, nice. Yeah. And if you want to keep tabs on us, you can follow us on Instagram at Black Exploration Pod, at Twitter at Black Exploration, Twitch, Black Exploration. We're there. And if you want to keep tabs on my co-host, Asia, I hope you're enjoying the night off. Call me Asia on all platforms. Call me Asia with an underscore on Twitter. Whoever has Call Me Asia handle held hostage, please talk to us. We're willing to negotiate. Okay, we're willing to negotiate whatever your terms are. We're willing to meet it there. Okay. And so thank y'all so much for tuning in. And as always, be happy, drink some water, keep gaming, and I hope you left this episode feeling inspired. Peace.
Take care. Bye.